I'm going to attempt something very audacious tonight. For the first time ever, I'm doing a live demo, which is actually pre-recorded. So I'm going to do a live sound track to a pre-recorded demo. So hopefully you won't see me wait for mouse clicks all the time. So bear with me. Cool. All right. Is that okay? Can everybody see that? Cool. All right, so me again. I'm a sales engineer, as was mentioned, sort of been with HubSpot for about 4 years. As you can tell from my accent, I'm not from here. The rest of my family do have Australian passports. I've got 4 kids and a wife. I pretend to be Irish, but I'm actually not. I lived in Dublin for 10 years. For those 4 years that I've been with HubSpot, about 3.5 of those I did work in Dublin. And I'm actually from Switzerland originally, which is why my last name normally is a bit difficult to pronounce. Somehow, however, I managed to choose a Twitter handle which is even more difficult. However, there's a reason for that, because I actually used to do something else. I used to be a classical musician, and I used to be the timpanist of the Irish Radio Orchestra. And so my Twitter handle, Laptop Timpanist, actually comes from there. And I used to, when I did a computer science degree, I was still in the orchestra, I had my laptop on the timpani. So that's, so the Laptop Timpanist. And it is true, it really is me. It's not a great shot. It's a screenshot from YouTube, I think, playing Superman here in the National Concert Hall in Dublin. But we're not really, obviously, here to talk about me. We're sort of here to talk about the Service Hub and really how sort of customer service needs to change. And I want to introduce somebody else here. This is Mike. Mike has an easier Twitter handle. And also he knows a lot about service. So he actually, I would say, is probably one of my favorite guys at HubSpot. He's been around for a long time, 8 years. He actually was my first boss. He was the director of the global support team and sort of moved up, then became the vice president of services team. And it's one of those things that actually quite a few people do in HubSpot, which is really cool. He moved complete direction. So he's now part of the product team, and he's responsible, the general manager for the Service Hub. And so when Mike joined HubSpot about 8 years ago, I think, the product wasn't great, the support wasn't great, and there was a lot of stuff he needed to fix. And I'm happy to say that sort of he achieved that. The support really is amazing now. I was in support about 4 years ago. Already then, it was a really good experience. But I'm not really free to talk about this here, but Mike learned a lot of stuff along the way. And sort of one thing that he learned was that this kind of funnel that we see here is still used by lots of companies. Sort of what I mean by this, and again, many of you use HubSpot, so I'm sure you've been inundated with funnels. We love those guys. But the funnel is actually really an outdated thing. Marketing and sales is where the money goes, right? So companies put a lot of money into this to acquire new customers. And the customer is kind of just the output of all of this. And I'm sure you've seen sort of ads, campaigns by, let's say, sort of telecommunication providers, internet service providers, where, you know, hey, come on board now, free 6 months, new customers only. Are you kidding me? Like, what the hell is that? Like, how do you think that makes people feel who are your customers at the moment, right? And so we really need to move away from this kind of funnel where the customers are just sort of the output that we're trying to squeeze out as much as possible, and really only talk to them when we're trying to upsell them, or maybe it's time for renewal or something like this. And so the new thing that we want to think about, and actually I forgot this slide here, is that your customers are empowered these days. So what I mean by this, if you don't treat them well, they will tell you. And if you don't ask them, they will tell you anyway, and tell the world, right? And you might think, well, like, this doesn't really apply to me, but turns out it does, because even prisons, as we see here, I did a quick Google search yesterday, get reviewed by their inmates, right? So here we go in details, right? So obviously there's some visitors here as well. The guards are nice and the food is high quality. However, what I was forced to eat in the shower was not edible, it stank like rotten fish. I had to remove the rest, it wasn't exactly PC. And then underneath as well, convenient location, friendly inmates, strict but fair guards. Right? This applies to everybody. If inmates rate the prison, it applies to you. Okay? So what's the way forward? It is this, that we now sort of think of our customers as the center of everything that we do. And we call that the flywheel, where the customers are no more the output, but they're actually an input as well. What I mean by this is that marketing sort of passes on leads to sales. Sales pass on customers to the service team. The service team make the customers so happy that they refer new guys back to marketing. So everything is an input, nothing is an output, and the customers are at the center of all of this. That's really super important. And this, in a nutshell, is why we built the Service Hub. Because it's actually quite difficult to achieve this. For a start, you need a bunch of different tools. So we have some of them here. So you need a survey tool to obviously stay on top of how customers feel about you, NPS, that sort of stuff. You need a ticketing tool to have a really good process in place. You need something like a shared inbox, really, that none of the conversations that you have or that your customers have with you sort of fall through the crack. We really should have live chat these days. Tony already talked about this. People like this, it's expected. Knowledge base is critical as well. So few people have knowledge bases, which is a crucial mistake, and we'll see why. But even if you sort of are on board with all of this, the problem is it's still difficult because it doesn't talk to everything else in the system that you have. Let's imagine you do actually have a survey tool and you ask your customers, say, hey, how are you feeling? They give you a 2 in an NPS, which is dreadful. You probably know an NPS is an American system, so only 9 and 10 are positive, which I struggle with personally. As a Swiss person, I would say a 6 or a 7 is probably great. It is what it is. So you get a 2, you have 3 open tickets, and now the sales rep brings you up and says, hey, how's it going, Daniel? Yeah, just sort of wondered, did you see we have a new service hub out? And I say, listen, I have 3 open tickets, nobody got back to me, and I just told you you're rubbish. And this is the way you're addressing this. Like, that's such a bad experience. As you can see, my title also contains the word sales. That's not the kind of conversation I want to be part of. It's really important you understand what's going on. Right? And Mike Redbart, the guy I mentioned before, one of the things sort of he came up with as well is this new methodology for how you treat your customers. The 3 really simple steps. It starts with engaging your customers. That's where we need sort of a joint inbox to really keep track of all the conversations, where we would have a ticketing system as well. That's absolutely crucial initially because you can't grow your business if your customers aren't happy. You need to actively work with them. Second step, that's the guiding them, because people don't always want to talk to you, even if they're happy. They want to self-serve. They want to get an answer right now. That's why the knowledge bases are critical. The other thing as well with engaging is it's hard to scale because it's expensive. Like we started at HubSpot as well. When we have so many new customers all the time, the costs for support went through the roof. So we had to figure out how can we do this in a much more scalable way, which is why we introduced, or at least extended massively, our academy, which is our knowledge base. And then the third benefit of this, which sort of comes almost as a side effect, is SEO. Like, it's amazing if you've got knowledge-based articles, how much that actually drives traffic. And then finally, you grow your customers, or you grow your happy customers base, you grow your business by asking for feedback all the time, and you turn them into promoters. Okay? So this little sort of framework is actually from an article here that Mike wrote recently on Medium on our blog called thinkgrowth.org, where he describes how HubSpot's customer service team became a profit center and how you can too. The link will be in here afterwards. I really recommend you check it out. All right, now that's where we come to the action item. Me doing a demo to a pre-recorded video. Here we go. Cool. All right. So, can you see all of this? I just need to look at the screen here a bit. So the new Service Hub comes with 4 main tools. One of them is tickets, we have a knowledge base, we have the customer feedback, and then sort of separately we also have the conversations tool, which is a joint inbox. Tony talked a bit about bots. We also have bots, which is pretty cool, sort of supercharge all of this. And then some of you who use the sales tool already know snippets and templates. again, you can use them here as well. And just a quick note as well about the new navigation. Hope many of you are using it. I think it's actually much better than the old one, really cool. But before we go into the new tools, I thought we'd just stay with something that most of us know really well, and that's a contact record. Because at the end of the day, nothing has really changed. It's still the same record. We still have information about the person here, Carlos. We still have information about the deals. What's new though is that now we also see tickets. So we see all the open tickets that he has, stage, etc., etc. On the timeline, we also have a few more additions. We now see ticket information, we see conversations from the joint inbox, and we see feedback submissions. Okay. And once we sort of look at the timeline itself, we can see how that looks. So at the top, we have a ticket here that was put into a certain stage. And then we have a full chat conversation that is visible here on the same screen that we already know. And then again, I think once we sort of untick certain boxes here in the filter at the top, we'll see actually how it looks for a feedback as well. Just wait for a second here, where it logs. I think in this case, it's a support ticket that was closed. So we can see now here the rating was 7, which is actually the best in this case. That's not an NPS score, that's the best out of 7. I'll talk to this about in a second. And then in this case, no feedback was provided. Obviously, this is a demo portal, so it's not a huge amount of data, but this is all the new stuff that now is visible on that same screen that you know already. And we're now jumping into the Conversations tool, which is the first one of the new tools. It's a pretty busy screen, so I'll quickly give you an explanation here how that works. So on the left, where it says Inbox Demo, we see sort of the your inboxes, I guess. You can set up multiple ones for all your joint email inboxes, support ads, sales ads, etc. And you can see your different channels. You see email there and chat. So let's say if you're going to write an email such as this one here, sort of a generic support address, Biglytics is our demo sort of company, fictitious company, instead of just going into a random Outlook or Gmail or whatever sort of account, it actually goes directly into that new joined inbox. And we'll see in a second sort of how really cool that is and how easy it is to use. On the other hand, chat obviously is very important. A little example here again from that same fictitious company where I had a conversation here previously. Any questions? And I said, yeah, I just need to know more about the big data. And they said, okay, cool. In this case, nobody was here, so they said, we'll get back to you by email. That goes directly into that chatbot, or in that conversation screen as well. And on the note of bots, we have a little example here as well. Motion AI was already mentioned. We acquired those guys last year, which is really cool because now we do bots as well. This is actually more a sales bot. So you can see the same tools you can use for various sort of aspects or various purposes. And in this case, similar to what Tony showed us before, they actually asked me some questions to qualify me here on the fly. So the number 1,000 employees there, I didn't have to type this in. It was just the sort of 4 or 5 different options. I just selected the right one. Now all of this automatically goes into that same joint inbox. For now, we're just doing email and, if I say just in inverted commas, we're doing email and chat. Facebook Messenger is the next on the agenda. There will be Twitter, there might be SMS, there's a whole bunch of really cool stuff coming there. But if we have any Slack enthusiasts, we have an integration with Slack as well. So let's say even sort of mobile app is pretty cool as well. So directly connected here, I can see within Slack that I get a new conversation, and I can even answer from here. So this is a really piece of magic here. Kind of bizarre, I'm talking to myself. But sort of the at mentioned Dan there is the internal rep that was automatically rotated to this conversation. So within Slack, I'm going to answer here again to myself. Maybe I should buy a mirror. And yeah, so then that magically really goes through HubSpot back to that chat window on the website, which I think is pretty cool. If we go back to the main conversation screen, let's imagine now I'm a service manager. So this is really easy for me to stay on top of things. Again, on the left, I can see how many email conversations I have, how many chat conversations. I can filter by status, by the different channels. As already mentioned, sort of email and chat at the moment. Sort of assignees I can check out, different time frames, etc. So always really, again, let's imagine maybe I just pick the open conversations for today as an example. And then from an sort of individual perspective, if I'm somebody who actually uses this tool as a support or service rep, First thing is I need to make sure I'm available. So at the moment I'm in away mode there, I can simply click on this, but I also wanted to quickly highlight this, how if you're in away mode, you can easily assign your replies to other people, which is obviously very important again, that the conversation isn't affected by the fact that you might not be online for a few minutes. Cool. So the main part of the screen here is the actual conversation itself, that live chat that came in. So I'm actually going to grab this conversation here. We had a round-robin rotation, but I'm available, that's why I'm at the top here. I'm actually going to take this from Elise. You can see it sort of notifies me, and I'm going to write the reply. However, sort of the first thing we should mention as well is, we said before, it can be really difficult because you don't have the context. Well, here I have the context. I can see that full sort of behavior, all the fields that we have in a CRM on the left-hand side. I can see that they have open tickets. So again, that allows me to obviously maybe write in a different way. And again, I used to work in support, so I know how really important it is to find the right tone. If somebody's maybe already a bit angry, or sort of they haven't had a reply, or it's still in development, or whatever it is, right? So deals are coming, not here yet, but you can see the full conversation, all these open tickets. Now, if this was a sales conversation, I could simply create an email from here. I could call them, create a task, all these good things you already know from HubSpot CRM. In this case, though, there seems to be sort of a technical problem. So the reports look incorrect, so I probably want to create a ticket. Because I need a little bit of process with certain steps. Same screen, again, don't have to go into another system. I just create a ticket, and I call it something like, tickets, or the incorrect reports, etc. And I can select different pipelines. In this case, I'm going to select the technical pipeline. You can customize this, of course. And I'm actually going to select my colleague, Lauren Scott, which some of you may know. He's actually a real sales engineer as well at HubSpot. Putting into his queue here, describe what this is. And there's one key element here that's just coming up in a second now, where because I have that full visibility, I could, for instance, say, hey, can you please treat this with high urgency? Because we have 3 open deals here. We're actually trying to sell these guys something, right? So, or they're a customer and they're up for renewal, or whatever it is. So because we have that full context. So we select the source. We might, in this case, select as a product issue here, categories, etc. Priority is high, and I'm going to save this. Okay, now that jumps into the ticket queue, which we'll take a look at in a second. On the other hand, I may also have maybe some sort of another chat here, which is a bit more generic. So it's just somebody, I think, asking for some information about big data. That doesn't really require a ticket. I don't need a process for this. I just want to send a quick reply. However, the cool thing is that we can use the same snippets that many of you may hopefully use in a CRM, which is like sort of a canned quick response. And you can even use that with that hash symbol. Not sure if you noticed. It's a really good quick hack. And so literally, I just had this pre-prepared, some knowledge base articles about big data, just write in, hi Daniel, and I'm good to go. Send this off. Okay, so we have sort of a use case for a quick fix, which I would use directly in conversations, or something I need to follow up, I need to process with certain stages. I want to create a ticket for this. And one thing I didn't mention before, or maybe I did quickly, is that we can sort of different ways to assign those conversations, round robin, or we can also just simply go in and say, I'm available, I can see this is a sales conversation, so I just pass it on to somebody from the sales team. Now, we already talked about tickets, so it makes sense kind of to move over there. How many people use the HubSpot CRM here in the room? Cool. So I'm sure you think, well, hang on, I've seen this before. There's a good reason for it. It looks very similar to the deals. We have multiple pipelines here, as I mentioned before. And you can, again, as with the deals, you can set up different stages, or we call them statuses here, to make this really sort of your own process. And we can filter on the left-hand side, same way as we do with the deals as well. You can create your own ticket properties, whatever that is. Now, if we take a look sort of as a sample ticket, again, I'm sure it rings a bell, or it looks very, very similar to a contact record, to a deal, to a company. Again, this is really by design. Once you know how the system works, it kind of just makes sense to sort of use the same layout again. And you can see that full conversation here that we had in the inbox that automatically made its way into that ticket here. So again, a really easy, nice way to update information, gets automatically logged on the correct contact. It automatically rolls up to the company. So even if it's more like an account-based approach, and you want to look at the company, you can see, well, they actually have 10 open tickets, so, or whatever it is. We need to make sure we sort of keep these guys happy. You can log notes the same way you used to from deals, etc. So this is sort of at the glance, the ticket tool, as you can see again on the left, looks very, very similar to the other tools that many of you are already used to. Now, as I said before, tickets are great, support is great, it just happens to be expensive, and so that's why when the knowledge base is super critical. So let's take a quick look now at a live knowledge base, and we can see actually how one of our customers uses the HubSpot knowledge base tool to sort of implement this, I guess, FAQ section, all these questions on their website. And once we get there, eventually, we will see, here we go, that they sort of, how it is to, we can create categories, subcategories. It's super easy to set up, so you can customize a few things here. In this case, API and integration would be a category, admin, getting started, etc. And then automatically, once you create an article and you log it correctly with the categories, it will show up in the right place here. So obviously very important as well on any knowledge base is a good search, which we have here. So search for zero, for instance, this example, it automatically sort of shows me all the articles, and then sort of here this pretty detailed article that they have here with video, maybe you'd like this, and all the sort of the different categories on the left. So it's really, really easy to find your way around. Even in the URL, you can see as well from an SEO perspective, we automatically structure it in a way so you see your categories and your subcategories there as well. And sort of the way this looks behind the scenes is that we should quickly go back here to the main screen. You can see all these different articles, many in draft. And if you click on the inside part, you get some nice reporting. Because that's really key, obviously, as well, to understand what people consume. And if you see, like in this case, that over 400 people read that one article, it probably makes sense to create more. And maybe break it out a bit and sort of be a bit more specific. Again, you can sort of filter this by certain categories, and we give you some nice reports out of the box. Again, from our own experience as a company, this is absolutely critical to understand sort of what content people consume on your knowledge base. To create it, it's even easier than creating a blog post in HubSpot, which I think says a lot, because that's already super easy. You just go in here, create the text, add pictures, and then simply categorize it correctly. Category, subcategory, as I mentioned before, and as soon as you do this, let's say make this sort of a how-to guide, it actually shows up on the live page in the correct location. Yeah, so much sort of for knowledge base, for tickets. The last thing really that we sort of going to take a look at is in this regard is sort of how we combine all the things. And again, actually Tony had a really nice example of this already, how we have a knowledge base with a bot, where the bot asks questions, where I say I need to understand more about, again, big data, for instance, in this case. It automatically surfaces the correct articles, hopefully the correct ones anyway, that's what it attempts to, and then ask me, basically, are you happy, are you not, would you like to create a ticket? Say no, and then we're finished. So we can create tickets, we have a conversation, we look up article for the knowledge base, all this completely automated and everything integrated with your CRM and the marketing platform, which I think is pretty cool. And I guess sort of the bridge over to customer happiness with hopefully, this works really well. And it's certainly one step towards making sure your customers are happy, they find the solutions. And so on that note, it makes sense to look at the feedback tool, which we have here. At the moment, we have two different feedback mechanisms. We have the customer loyalty and the customer support. The loyalty one we're going to take a look at now is an NPS report, best of 10 points. And sort of we can take a look as well quickly how we would edit this. Again, really, really straightforward. Sort of a wizard-driven approach with different tabs, where I choose whether it's email or web page, and then simply click into the customize button at the top to see, okay, a few options here. Obviously the right company name, I'll choose Biglytics again, that fictitious company, maybe change the color, and you're already good to go. Go to the next step, where we now sort of customize what questions you want to ask depending on their answer. So if somebody's a detractor, Maybe you want to customize it a bit. Sometimes things in HubSpot can be a bit American out of the box, so you might want to change this. Sort of, neutral and promoters. Again, thank you, logo or not, and then just a few more options here, and you're done. So this literally takes a minute. This is an important one. Who do you want to send this to, and how regularly? Is it all the new customers, or maybe do you want to use almost like a smart list here on the left to say all of those people should get it every 6 months, let's say. Okay. And then, of course, reporting, both at the global scale, at an individual scale. So here's a global report for the customer loyalty. You can see sort of how many people were sent that one, how many people clicked on it, sort of delivered, etc. And then sort of some nice visual representation of the NPS. Here, 40 is a really good number, and then obviously NPS over time as well. And the same thing also sort of applies to the other one, the CES score, where we sort of looks very similar. We have these different responses here, where I can, again, expand on any of those if I want to read the full response, simply by clicking on it. And of course, it's in the same system as everything else. So if you want to find that record, you just click on that one link, and you're there. Okay, sort of everything, of course, the real sort of thing at heart here is that everything is integrated, so we really understand what's going on, how happy people are. Okay. Right, so this is sort of customer loyalty, and we looked a bit at reporting, so it makes sense to look at the dashboard, because you're actually getting an additional dashboard as well, with some nice sort of out-of-the-box reports. So at the moment, they cannot be customized yet, but we'll see in a second, sort of it's a pretty good library of reports that you can use, that you can just add your various dashboards here. So we have tickets by status, by source, sort of different categories, response time. Again, don't want to bore you with all the details here, but basically sort of pretty much all the reports you would want from a customer service perspective, from a support perspective, are built in here out of the box. And of course, it's drag and drop, as you already know, or many of you probably. NPS sort of breakdown by sentiment, etc. And quickly wanted to show you as well how we extended our reports library. So we have a really big reports library available out of the box, and we added 2 new sections here for conversations over time, sort of by URL, if you had sort of conversation inboxes or chats on various parts of your website, by assignee, sort of average response time, etc., etc. And we'll see in a second, again, we'll expand the service option as well. Customer feedback, knowledge base, tickets. Again, some of those we've already seen. And as I say, like before, at the moment, we can just add those reports. Here's the CES one, which is a best of 7. Going forward, I'm sure at some stage, we'll also be able to actually customize them a bit more. All right, and that was pretty much it. I just want to quickly go back to this one. Just to highlight again what we've seen here. So these are all the tools to really help you engage your customers through that joint inbox, that you don't lose out on any conversation you're supposed to know about. Using the ticketing system to have a really good process in place to engage those customers further, if you need a process, and then guide them to self-help. This is what people want to do. It will help save you a ton of money, and it's great for SEO. And finally, to make sure you really understand through regular checks with your customers, through sort of feedback, or ask them for feedback to actually grow them, grow more promoters, and grow your business. I'll just quickly jump back into the slide deck for a few more slides. There we go. I'm going to introduce a third person. And in contrast to Mike, he's actually here. We have Kalle here, very prominently positioned at the front. The reason why I want to quickly talk about Kalle, it's actually pretty funny. This only came out yesterday. So obviously I was sort of preparing for the slides here for tonight. And every Monday morning at HubSpot, we have a meeting for the whole sales team, which is called Sales Stand-Up. And one of my colleagues, Alessia, sort of shared sort of a success story, and she said, hey, here, sort of talked how Kalle, how Fairfax and Roberts, who is obviously a really well-established, well-known jeweler here in Sydney, sort of how well they're doing. And I was actually involved when Kalle came on board, because I do pre-sale stuff mostly, I didn't really realize sort of how well they were doing. And so yesterday, funny enough, again, I talked to Alessia and said, hey, it's amazing, like, it's so cool. I didn't know that sort of they had such amazing results. And she said, yeah, honestly, anytime I demo Service Hub, I talk about Kalle. I was like, wow, well, it feels like I should talk about him as well then. And so I literally yesterday reached out to him and said, hey, would you be okay if I just put a few slides about you and about Fairfax and Roberts? I said, yeah, sure. And this is a really nice example of what it means to have happy customers, right? And so Fairfax and Roberts came on board in November last year, so around 6 months ago, and the sales process wasn't the easiest one. Like, it's not that Carl was difficult, he's a really nice guy. Obviously, I can't say anything else anyway, but it was just more that, like, he needed to do his due diligence, he did extensive testing with the free tools. Like, we needed to give him a really good use case. It wasn't like just, oh, where can I sign? And then when they came on board, they've really seen absolutely incredible results. And I'm not really showing this here just to say how great HubSpot is, more just to show you what it means to have happy customers and what great results of your customers can mean to your business, as in having your customers as an input to your business and not an output. So again, amazing increase in leads here, 3 times more than in November. Organic traffic since August, 250%, like amazing numbers, hit your goal 3 months in advance. Just with content, hopefully some videos, not sure, might need to talk to Moby about this, but no ads, right? So this is amazing. And what it means to us as a business is that Kalle is so happy that he literally brought on 3 new customers already to HubSpot in that short time, even in different countries. Is it Denmark, maybe one of them, or certainly Scandinavia, Nordics?
Denmark, Switzerland.
Ah, Switzerland as well, wow, okay. And they all closed within 7 days. Now, I mean, what that really means is that's net new revenue for HubSpot. It's companies that we really probably wouldn't have had access to, and so quick that it's most likely faster than our best reps. And I'm slightly exaggerating here. I mean, sometimes we do have very quick processes, but 7 days is super quick, or even less than 7 days. And none of this would have been possible without Kalle, because it's only because he recommended HubSpot, because people trust him as an independent person, not as somebody who works for HubSpot. And as a result of that trust, of him recommending this, like, this is amazing, it worked so well for us, they came on board literally in no time at all. And again, this is sort of, now he's even an official customer reference. I think just had a call the other day again. So if it keeps going on like this, I'm sure we'll have a 4th customer in no time. Sort of continuous referrals. But the last point I think is the most important one. So I've been married for 16 years, so I know what the ultimate sort of sacrifice is. Or the ultimate sort of success thing. So he even brought on his wife, right? And sort of this is the last thing I want to stop here with, is Kalle's wife is a doula. I presume some of you at least know what this is. Sort of it's a nice description there as well, sort of non-medical birth help. And again, some phenomenal results, like #1 on Google for doula, although the #2 actually has the word doula in the URL. Like, that's pretty cool. And again, I'm not showing you this to say HubSpot is great as a marketing platform. I'm showing you this, the level of excitement, the level of sort of commitment you can get from your happy customers to drive your business forward. Because at the end of the day, no matter how good your marketing platform is, there's nothing better than the old-fashioned referrals. And if you can sort of really measure those and get those into the system through that flywheel where everything centers around the customers, you're just in a much better spot. And quite frankly, if you don't, I don't think your business will be around in 10 years. So it's really make sure that we all adapt this flywheel where the customers are in the middle and they're not an output, all talks to each other, and it's an input to your business and generates more revenue. And that's it. Thanks very much.